Welcome to the Geek Cabal podcast, Cabal Whisperings. I am Bobby, and I'm joined today by
Sarah?
who, if you've seen some of our videos on the video side of this, or if you're not watching the video right now and listening to this on audio only, she's been in a number of our other videos.
I pop up from time to time.
Yes. And today, we're going to be talking about the movie The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Last Voyage of the Demeter. It wasn't lost, it was the last, sorry. Which we watched earlier today. Just a quick note on that front.
Are we doing spoilers?
That's what I'm going to talk about. So, yes, there's going to be spoilers. Because this is from a book that is over a century old.
And fairly accurate to the book.
Yeah, so if you know what it's about, which you should from the trailers, but in fairness, we're going to try to keep the spoilers towards the end, and we'll try to make a certain point of from here on, beware spoilers. Or here be spoilers, abandon all hope, ye who enter, kind of thing.
You might as well just put that at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be very far into the video before we get to that point. No. So, because we're going to be freely talking about it, because again, going in, I don't even, this doesn't even constitute a spoiler in my opinion. This is from Dracula, okay? Yeah. Which I think is in the trailer. So, if you know that, you should roughly know how things are going to proceed.
Right.
All right, so just throwing that out there. Also, just a quick note in general, our movie reviews going forward, since they don't really require visuals, because I'm not going to put clips from the movies in these things, are probably also going to be here in the podcast side of things. So if you do want them audio only, that will be an option, unless for some reason we need visuals. In which case, then they probably won't be, but we'll get to that when we come to it. So just going forward, that's what you should expect.
Noted.
So, any opening thoughts of the spoiler-free variety?
Of the spoiler-free variety. So we can basically talk about how the movie looked and things like that. It was pretty, as far as in that creeptastic kind of way. It gave you that vibe. They very much nailed the eerie, something's going on just by the visual. Even in the beginning, you could tell. They had the wide shots with, broad views of the docks and things like that, that gave you the something's happening here.
Something ominous.
Yeah, something is coming.
And that's even before
even before they load the crates.
Yeah.
So, the other part of that is the downside to the visuals was I thought it was a little dark. I know that dark means ominous, and given the weather, it's supposed to be kind of dark, but I wouldn't have minded being able to see just a little bit better. Because it's a vampire movie. It's a Dracula movie. Yeah. So I want to see Dracula. I want to see your rendition of that. And it was very vague because they didn't mind showing you. It was just heavily shadowed. And I would have liked some more highlights at least.
Yeah, and just a quick opening note here. This is definitely a horror movie.
Yes.
This isn't This isn't Renfield.
And okay? there is gore that is traumatic, not look, squirt blood. We're being funny about this. No, it is gore for trauma.
Dracula is presented as having a mouthful of needle fangs instead of just the two canines. Mm-hmm. So he definitely tears into some people.
Yeah. And claws and things like that. It's very much the savage version, not the refined pretty boy version that we get in a lot of modern vampire stuff.
Minor diversion here. I really do think that the Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola, I think struck the balance.
It did, yeah.
Because you had Gary Oldman, he had the refined look, but also, definitely when he was in the wolf form, just tore into people.
Yeah.
So, it definitely did all kinds of horrific things while he was still in Transylvania.
So, something we'll get into a little later in the spoilers version is how I thought it was really neat how they played the fact that Dracula can hide in human-ish form. I thought that was kind of neat. Um, Other things, I want the soundtrack to sleep by, and I know that sounds really weird, but most of the movie there are thunderstorms and ocean waves, and that's lulling. Like it was bad for me because the jump scares got even more scary because here I am like fighting to stay awake because my body is like, that's the sound we go to sleep to, and I'm like, no, I'm awake. I'm awake. I promise.
Yeah, and so by that she doesn't mean the musical soundtrack.
No, no, just
to be
like the
clear.
background noise,
Which would
the
actually
environmental noise.
Yeah, which would actually be a score in this case because
Yes,
there's no
yes.
lyrics, but
Yeah.
yeah, so there's no random modern music, thank God. Uh,
Why do you hate that? I love that.
as I have noted before, I'm not a huge fan of that.
He can be wrong. It's fine.
Well, so I don't think it's, as we mentioned, this is from the story of Dracula. Like there's a portion after he leaves Transylvania and goes to London. He goes by ship, and this is what that is. This is the Demeter.
captain's log in between.
Yeah. So, and it's taken from the book itself, where the captain describes things in the captain's log.
Mm-hmm.
So, in most movies, they tend to gloss over this, like the aforementioned Bram Stoker's Dracula. You get like little bits and pieces, but then the ship just shows up in London with no one alive on board. Yeah. So
this is actually the voyage. And it's about the people and how they tried, once they realized what was going on and how they tried to survive.
Yeah,
and later things.
Yeah, which is another note that I don't think is really a spoiler, but this was rather interesting for a vampire movie where we have people that have no idea what the rules are.
Yeah.
Because there's always somebody, that's like, oh, we've got to do this, or it's in the modern day, and they're like, well, they're vampires, we can do this, right? Just a second. So anyway, like I said, it is pure horror. It is graphic. It is all for violence, just in case you're wondering. There's no sex in it, because there's literally one woman in the entire movie, and nothing ever happens there. And yeah, but like
when you're scared for your life,
all the lore parts seem to match up without like going into explanations. Like the people that bring the crates there to the ship are Romani, and although I'm sure the book probably calls them gypsies, and like the woman that's on board that kind of knows a little bit, but not a lot. She's a Romani from one of the villages that Dracula plagues looking for victims. And he's going to London. We know he's going because he purchased Carfax Abbey, But those are the end pieces that we know from the story. And we as the audience know what's happening at certain points because we know the story. But the characters have no idea. They're even like, well, will bullets kill him? Well, and they're surprised by the whole sunlight thing, too.
And they're just, they're lost. They're like,
yeah.
Well, I don't know why. And like the dirt and everything.
Yeah, like they have no idea why the dirt's there. Why there are crates full of dirt. They don't understand that, like, they know he's sleeping in it, but they don't understand the significance of it. Mm-hmm. So, and so I think with that, that's probably the most, before we go to spoilers, I can say I really enjoyed the movie.
I did.
So I thought it was good. Whoever thinks horror movies have to be confined to October is a fool. Like, spread them out. Because it's definitely like counter-programming for what's currently at the box office for sure. And, I don't think it's going to make tons of money because Barbie's still steamrolling everything. But it might soak up part of the Oppenheimer audience. You never know.
Yeah.
But Oppenheimer is also good. You should check out my review on that here on the channel. But anyway, so I think that's probably the end of where we can say where we're going to have to go into spoiler territory.
Okay.
So
spoilers.
Yes, spoilers.
So I have my largest complaint is the typical, like, watching a movie complaint is, they killed the dog, and I was heartbroken, and I didn't like it. And they killed him in like the first 15 minutes.
That's actually in the trailers.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But I mean, realistically, like.
But you understand why.
Yeah, realistically, it would have happened. That's what would have been. A beast can't allow another beast to let people know he's there, or that he's cropping around.
Very, very much like in the Terminator movies, the dog could tell that something was happening and would have definitely been a target.
Well, and even the animals freaked out.
Yeah, well, they were first on the menu.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he was rationing.
Yeah.
You know?
He knew he needed some percentage of the crew to keep the ship moving.
Yep.
So
he was just trying to survive till he got there. He also brought his own snacks, which is where this woman comes from, which was really interesting. And I loved the way they used the transfusions and kind of, didn't really know why it was working to keep them from turning, and didn't even know that it was keeping them from turning. They just thought that it was staving off
they just thought it was
infection.
Yeah.
And it is, but
yeah,
it's kind of interesting. And the doctor is the only one who survives, and
that's a big
that's
spoiler.
why he starts putting. But that's how he starts putting stuff together, and that's how later people find out the rules about. He needs the dirt. He needs. It's transmitted by blood. It's that they do. He can control the weather because everything seemed to happen. The doctor puts it all together, I'm sure.
Yeah. That is some of the things that happen in the movie, as we mentioned, have no explanation within the movie. But if you've seen other Dracula stuff, you know what's going on.
You've read the book.
Like the constant storms. That's because Dracula can control the weather. He's driving them to get there faster and faster.
He didn't want to run out of snacks.
Yeah. And towards the end, they lay a trap for him, and he's like, "Oh, really? Can you see through the mist?" And just covers the ship in mist. And there we the audience know that that's Dracula. Definitely did that. I mean, visually the way it works is you can tell it's unnatural, but the weather up to that point they'd not mentioned that, so you just had to put two and two together from other Dracula stories. And 2 people on the ship get turned. And so they're totally unprepared whenever they've got...
I guess technically 3 do.
Well, she was already on her way.
Yeah, that's true. They just staved it off for a while.
But yes, 3 people throughout the movie do. The first guy, they tie him to the main mast. Yeah. And he's sitting there like, "Oh, it burns. They don't realize what he's saying is the rising sun.
Well, and they think it's the infection that burns.
Yeah, but then the sun starts hitting him and he combusts, and they're like, whoa.
And they just stand there and let part of their ship burn. I thought that was a little ridiculous.
Yeah, but they're all just kind of like, what in the hell just happened? Like, viruses don't do that, you know? And even the doctor's like, I don't know what the fuck we're dealing with now, you know? So, but yes, that happened, and another individual, little boy, he dies.
Also terrible, negative points for this.
He dies, and then the captain's like, I saw him move, and we're like, oh man, either the captain's crazy or he is actually moving, but we all noticed that...
He's not alive.
Yeah, we all noticed that, the sun is up, so maybe you shouldn't open up the burial bag. Well, the captain does, and boy opens his eyes and sits up and then combusts and then grabs the captain. Burns him half to death.
Who happens to be
his grandfather?
Yeah. So it's traumatic.
You get why it happens. I'm not saying it's I'm not trying to make it sound like it's irrational for what happens, but then they throw the boy overboard. And
they don't try to make light of how traumatic something like this would be.
Yeah, like I said, definitely a horror movie.
Yeah.
And then at the end, like I said, they try to pull a fast one on Dracula. And the best they can do is they get him pinned to the mast, which those who know the rules are thinking for a moment, wow, are they actually going to kill him here in the movie? Because that's got to be a chunk of wood right through his torso. Are we really going to deviate? But they're like, yeah, probably not. So 2 people make it off the ship, the doctor and the woman, and they're sitting there. They thought to grab more than just a door, so the 2 of them could float.
They actually have 2 separate pieces?
Yes, 2 separate pieces.
And... I don't know. I thought this was the most ridiculous thing. So she knows she's changing. She knows that, I'm not getting transfusions regularly. Like, I can't put this off. The sun's coming up.
She has visibly changed. The sun's coming up. Yeah.
So she pushes herself off to go burn in peace, but she takes the good piece of wood, like the good float that you could, row yourself to shore. No. He lets her go burn. I'm sorry, honey. We're switching places. If you're going to light up, you get on this thing.
In fairness, and I know what you're saying, but either way, he probably wasn't out there very long, because they had to be able to see that from shore.
I am just saying.
No, I totally agree,
If you're dying anyway, I'm pushing you on the shitty piece of wood.
If you're just going to burn up, sure, but... Although on the flip side, something to consider, If she'd been on the other piece, she might have started to burn, then go under the waves and stop.
But she died because obviously Toby died when he combusted.
Toby was just a little kid, though. Like she's got more mass. Like she might have just like burned and then let go spontaneously, sunk under and not burned to death. Whereas if she's sitting up in the sun, all of her's getting it, and she's completely burning up.
I don't know.
I'm just saying.
Wrap her up in that tarp business, and of course they didn't have much time.
Yeah, well, and she didn't want to be a vampire. Like she's like, I don't want to be that kind of monstrous thing. So she wanted to die.
They don't shy away from the trauma that it caused. And then at the very end,
the guy's in London. He does make it to shore. The ship crashes, and they investigate. And then the captain they can tell he was lashed to the mast, which is one of the things from the story. And then they crash. The doctor makes it to shore, and then
so in it, the Romani girl has said, he hides among men and he can look like them, but they do a really good job of showing that he still looks other. He's still very different. Yeah. He doesn't quite blend in like you would call the pretty vampires or anything.
If he were capable of being in broad daylight.
Yeah.
You would definitely notice he was not human.
Yeah, but he's doing the whole
he's got
hat
the top
with
coat, cane, yeah.
Yeah,
and he lets the doctor know
that he knows he's there.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because the doctor's all hell bent, like, well, I know where the beast sleeps. I'll take him out. And like after he's thinking this, he gets the subtle signal that they've been using throughout the movie, and he sees him sitting over there, and then like warp speed goes behind him and touches him right on his back to let him know, like, I can kill you at any moment.
He touched him on the neck where he cut him before.
Oh, okay, was it? Yeah. I didn't know. That's a detail I didn't notice. There we go.
Yeah. So
yeah, definitely I can kill you at any moment. Like, don't screw with me kind of thing.
It was good. I enjoyed it. Like, I don't like they killed the dog, and I don't like they killed the boy, but it was part of it. I was gonna say,
but we knew going in that like
makes it horror. Yeah.
Few, if any, people were gonna survive. I was surprised anyone survived. So.
And they do have some really good jump scares. Like you think it's gonna jump at another point, and it waits.
Yeah.
For you, like it sets you up into thinking you're getting ready to get scared. And then it doesn't happen. So then when you're not expecting it, I end up like almost in his lap or yanking him over to my seat. So it was good. I enjoy the little bit of scares. Like it's
yeah. I enjoy the movie overall. It's interesting that this year we've had 2 movies derived from the Dracula story
that are polar
opposites. This one in Renfield.
I've still got to see Renfield.
Jim and I watched it, and I'm pretty sure we've talked about it. I think it's also worth watching. It's just a totally different experience, though. If nothing else, it's worth watching it for Nicolas Cage, just committing 100% to being Dracula. Like, also with the mouthful of needle teeth.
Really?
So yeah.
Well.
Yeah. So that's a thing, I guess. So yeah. Okay. Well, definitely worth checking out if you like horror or Dracula or ship disaster movies. That's a whole genre unto itself. My personal favorite there is Ghost Ship, but what's the one where they're on the cruise ship and it capsizes? The Poseidon Adventure. Thank you, Jim.
Not a movie.
He's off screen over here at the moment, folks. Thank you. We're using his house here. Yes, The Poseidon Adventure. The original had Gene Hackman, Ernest Borgnine, and a bunch of other people. The remake had Kurt Russell. I prefer the original, but that's just me. Nothing against Kurt Russell. I love Kurt Russell in movies, but that one is not so great, in my opinion. But anyway, definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of any of those. Keep an eye out. We've done several other movie reviews here on the channel. If there's any that can do audio only, I'm going to put them into our longer playlist here. So if you are just listening, if you're just coming to us through the audio only section, keep an eye out for those. But otherwise, keep an eye out for other videos and audio only stuff going forward. Probably look forward to a slew of Gen Con related stuff on the video front here in the near future, because we just went and bought a bunch of products. But other than that, check out our weekly, well, we're going to hope for weekly podcasts where we just talk about a variety of topics, as opposed to our single topic podcasts, which you've just listened to. But otherwise, thank you for listening, and I don't know.
See you
Don't
later.
don't get stuck on a ship with Dracula, I guess.
Right? Bad things.
Very bad things. Almost as bad as being on a plane full of snakes, but just saying. Although that had a much higher survival rate, so maybe not. People did actually survive that one. More than one.
We digress. Have a
Yes,
good
lots of
evening.
digression.
Bye.
So, goodbye.